I am back
with a brand new DC update.
All right, we have plenty to talk about in this video. We're going to talk about the best Batman film that was never made and what a loss it was. We're going to look at some new details on the canceled Ben Affleck film. We're also going to look at some stuff about David Zaslav that just is not a good look on his part. And I've got some tongue-in-cheek stuff to show you as well. So we have plenty to go over in this particular video. So let's get started. So the first thing I wanted to show you here was something that I actually grabbed yesterday. It said a potential Kingdom Come animated movie couldn't go forward due to DC changing regimes, according to Justice League Warworld producer Butch Lukic. Full quotes at this particular article, which is interesting. We know that James Gunn is going to have everything connected together, and I do believe I have another photo that's going to dig a little bit deeper into this. So the Kingdom Come movie could not be made. He wants everything to be basically streamlined to fit within his universe. So we're going to take a look at some stuff here. So here's what I wanted to discuss in regards to David Zaslav. This guy is just a piece of work, all right? It says Warner Brothers Discovery says strikes has saved the company more than $100 million in quarter two. David Zaslav hopes negotiating resumes soon. And we're going to look at exactly what he said in regards to this. Now, this is strange considering that they are talking about how much money the company saved. But he says, it's critically important that everybody, the writers, the directors, the actors, and producers, everyone needs to be fairly compensated, and they need to feel valued and feel that they are fairly compensated in order to do their best work, Zaslav said. And we have to focus on getting that done. I'm hopeful that it's going to happen soon. I think all of us in this business are very keen to figure out a solution as quickly as possible. We are in some uncharted waters, yeah, you think? In terms of the world as it is today and measuring it all. And so I think in good faith, we all got to fight to get this resolved. And it needs to be resolved in a way that the creative community feels fairly compensated and fully valued. If AI is a part of it at all, that is not going to happen. And he's hoping this will end quickly. I don't think it's going to end quickly because Hollywood is not willing to negotiate. He goes on to say the content licensing we have one of the best TV and motion picture libraries in the world. If you look at the overall economics, I think we're actually below the last couple of years in terms of what we're selling. If the strike continues, there may be more demand. We're always looking to maximize. We're hoping the strike gets settled as soon as possible. It's important. It's important that we get going and that we get back to work doing what we love. And we're hoping that both of these strikes gets resolved soon. That's our focus. Now, I do plan on doing a whole separate video in regards to physical media. And it's funny that he's talking about digging into that library when he has treated the Warner Brothers Discovery library like crap. There is a website that I have been following for well over almost 2 decades now called thedigitalbits.com. And they had a whole article yesterday on how horrible Warner Brothers is with their back catalog and also with their 4K discs, as well as Disney. These two companies are giving the middle finger to consumers. And I am going to cover that article in a whole video all by itself. So here is another article that got released. And it says, Warner Brothers Discovery's quarter two results hit by the flash and soft ad climate. But free cash flow doubles to $1.7 billion. You have to remember this company is about $50 billion in debt. That means that's going to take them, the next 6 years to get out of it at this rate. Investors cannot be happy about this. They just cannot, because they're still bleeding money. Warner Brothers is still on fire. Hollywood is still on fire. And there's no positive solution to anything that is going on. They got hit hard. Barbie's going to help them a little bit, But you have to remember, Warner Brothers Discovery is much bigger than just the movie division. And they're not treating, like I said just a few minutes ago, they're not treating the physical media aspect of this well either. Now, this is something that also came across my plate. It says, DC savior Hamada promised a thriving new DCU, kept Snyderverse cast, but Cavill, except for Cavill, Affleck, and Fisher, greenlit senseless projects no one asked for, announced many that never got made, cheapened budget and quality, and divided the fandom even more. And he did. And that's exactly what Gunn is continuing to do. It's like the plan hasn't changed at all. Now, there was supposedly a plan by Hamada to get to Kingdom Come, but they were doing all these projects that were ridiculous and nobody asked for and nobody was interested in. And Gunn is definitely continuing down that path for sure. And I will definitely be talking more about James Gunn and his DCU plans tomorrow in another video. Now, this was something that I just saw today, which I thought was interesting. It says, James Gunn reveals the DCU animated movies will get theatrical releases. I don't think that's a good idea. But this shows that he is keeping everything, combined and together all in one universe. But I still don't think that's a good idea unless they are like super high quality, which I don't think I've seen any animated features, that have been released direct to video that I would say are feature film quality. Now, this is something funny, and this goes back to what I just talked about with David Zaslav. I think the guy is the cheapest executive out there, and it says Warner Brothers lost 1.8 million subscribers as Warner Brothers Discovery announced a $10.3 million loss in total revenue for its second quarter. Max is bleeding subscribers following its boneheaded rebrand. Who sat in a room and who's not big enough to stand up to this guy and say this is not a good idea? You take the main thing that set them apart, the HBO, and you just call it Max, which is the cheap part of it. That's the general consensus with David Zaslav, is that he is just cheap. Cheap, 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 cheap. Now, this is that tongue-in-cheek thing I talked about. Somebody posted this, and I thought this was hilarious. Because they did this with both, Shazam 2, and they're doing this with Blue Beetle. And it says, this is a fake quote by Gunn. It says, as I've said, Barbie is the first film of my DCU. Just so they can get a win on their plate. I thought that was freaking hilarious. So here's the main thing I wanted to talk about. It has to do with the Ben Affleck movie that never got released or never got filmed. I've talked about this in several videos in the past, and there are lots of studio insiders who have said it is the best Batman script they have ever read. And this is Warner Brothers, their MO. They walk away from the great stuff to give the audience garbage. And Jay Oliva, known for his involvement in major DCEU movies like Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Wonder Woman, as well as directing DC's animated feature films such as The Dark Knight Returns and Flashpoint Paradox, recently revealed that Ben Affleck's canceled Batman movie aimed to bring a fresh angle to Batman's 80-year comic legacy. He said, I've worked on a lot of Batman things, and what was really cool about it was tying together a lot of really cool Batman storylines that have never really been explored, he added. Ben's story was going to cover something that had never been really covered in comics, but was building off of storylines in the Batman mythos over the last 80 years and approaching it from a new kind of perspective. He continued, it was very clever, and there were a lot of things in it that I really loved that I wish had come to fruition. It was a really great project in the beginning. Ben had to step away for personal reasons, and I totally understood. But the time that I spent with Ben working on the project was fantastic. It is absolutely ridiculous that we had all this greatness being planned that never came to fruition because Warner Brothers turned their back on these individuals. There's a reason why Ben Affleck had a horrible time. His experience on the Justice League shoot, when Whedon came in and changed everything, was the most miserable experience of his career, and he talked about that in a recent interview. And it's a shame that they ruined his spirit so much that we never got to see this film. And that's why they went the Batman route with Pattinson. The whole thing is just sad. It's disheartening as a fan. And man alive, I really hope there's a miracle gets pulled off and we actually get to see these things at some point. I'm hoping Warner Bros. Discovery is finally realizing the mistake that they made. I really hope that there are some really intelligent people down there that realize that they have turned their back on the people that are making them money and that they will fix this. It's wishful thinking on my part, but I still have hope that it will happen. All right, there's my update for the day. We will see you on the next video.